Classic Restos is proudly brought to you by Shannons Insurance, Penrite Oil and Hare & Forbes Machinery House.
Hello and welcome to another interesting episode of Classic Restos, but before we go any further on today's show, here's this. Shannons offer us as enthusiasts just so much more. Classic bikes, cars, trucks, bundle it all together with your house and contents and receive a multi-policy discount. Call Shannons on 134646 for a quote. Sign up for the Shannons Club, interact with others, list your car club, find events and so much more. The Shannons Club truly is your garage at shannons.com.au. For oil, coolants and additives, choose Penrite. They have stood the test of time. Established 1926. Australian owned, Australian made. Oil with more zinc for older style engines. No matter what the engine, no matter what the application. Contact the Penrite Technical Assistance Team 7 days a week at penriteoil.com.au. Oil right, use Penrite. Simply a better class of oil. For some of the largest range of tools for all trades and DIYs, don't go past Hare & Forbes Machinery House. Established 1930, with branches around Australia and New Zealand. Their showrooms will have you browsing for hours, and no matter where you are, you can buy online at machineryhouse.com.au. From a garage jack through to a lathe, Hare & Forbes has the range. machineryhouse.com.au. And on this week's episode of Classic Restos, it's an all first. Welcome to a brand new automotive museum. The Geelong Museum of Motoring and Industry recently opened late 2014, and you're seeing it first on Classic Restos. To have an auto museum in Geelong, Victoria makes perfect sense. It was the city that was home of Ford. Geelong is like the Detroit of Australia, representing a strong automotive legacy. The Geelong Museum of Motoring and Industry is the home of an impressive collection of motor vehicles and pays tribute to the industry and manufacturing heritage of Geelong. It is run by enthusiasts for everyone to enjoy and is located in the industrial precinct in North Geelong, just a short drive from the CBD at number 6 Mackie Street. The location for this magnificent repository is the Federal Mills, originally built to manufacture uniforms for the Anzacs in World War I. So now it's time to go and see what awaits us inside. The people are waiting for me, they can't wait. It's locked. With me now, lucky enough to have Nick, the chairman of the board here at this wonderful motoring museum. On behalf of everybody, to yourself and the team, great effort. Well done.
Thanks, Fletch. Yeah, we're really pleased to have it open. It's been a lot of work, but we got there in the end.
Before I go any further, scoring this old building in its entirety without even the cars in it is just amazing as well.
Yeah, look, the museum's part of the exhibit, isn't it? And a great backdrop for what we've got here. It's the old Federal Mills, 1914. Lovely connections because this was where they made the uniforms for the Anzacs, specially built for that. It's just behind so much of that Geelong motoring heritage. You know, we've got Pilkingtons there and Henderson Springs. So great location, great look for us.
Now, Nick, apart from the automotive heritage here in Geelong, what inspired the museum?
I think that Geelong's got the whole region's got this wonderful motoring history and legacy and a great love of cars. You know, obviously Ford's in the region and that's part of it. But give Geelong people a space and some tools and you'll get a car pretty soon.
Now, comprising the quantity of cars here, 99-year lease, permanent donations, who do these cars belong to?
Well, we were lucky. A lot of them belong to the Ford Heritage Trust and they've been kind enough to donate them to the museum. So we've got a wonderful collection to begin with that came from the old Ford Discovery Centre. And then on top of that, we've been loaned some wonderful cars. And of course, people have donated cars, memorabilia, engines and bits. So it makes for a fantastic but always changing collection.
Now, it's been open since late 2014, led to believe too opened by my good mate Dick Johnson.
That's right. Dick was in town for the Geelong revival, and we used the opportunity to get him out here. And we thought, you can open anything with a politician, which is wonderful. But what a great way, because Ford's association with Dick and his racing team. And he's raced down here. So it was great to have him.
Good on you, Nick. Thank you so much for your time. I've got an opportunity now to get around this museum with some of the curators. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much, Nick.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
One really nice aspect of these museums are the volunteers. We have a curator now, Ken. How are you, Ken?
Yes, I'm very well, thanks, Fletch. How are you?
Good, thank you. Thanks for coming in today.
That's no problems.
Now, this museum means a lot to you. We're in the first initial row as you walk through the door and turn right. And what can you tell us about these couple of rows of cars?
On our right here, we've got a 1960 Prefect, and then we've got a 1971 Triumph 2000. Here we've got a 1981 Citroen 2CV, but...
Now, that 81 Citroen 2CV, I'm sorry, to me it looks like 1921.
Yeah, well, that's how they built them over there. They were a very basic car, but a very practical car.
Now, Ken, on the end, we've got a beautiful 1964 Falcon two-door. What can you tell us about that car?
That's an XM Coupe. It's actually my car. It was sold new in Geelong, and I'm the second owner of it. So it's done 107,000 genuine miles. It's only ever been painted, nothing else done to it.
That's amazing. Do you feel kind of special having that car?
Oh, I love it. It's a very special car. A lot of people seem to want to buy it off me, but
I can't understand why, you know.
But I don't want to sell it, because if I sold it, I can't get another one.
Next to the Falcon, the two-door Sunbeam. That's a unique little car there, Ken.
Yeah, that's a Sunbeam Rapier, 1725cc motor. They're quite a quick little car. Yeah.
I mean, being a two-door as well, quite a stylish old girl.
Yeah, it is stylish for its time, yeah.
I've got to admire the little fins out back. They were trying hard, weren't they?
Yes, yeah, they were having a go.
Okay, now, behind us here, right behind where Ken's standing, we've got this glorious 63 Chrysler Royal. What can you tell us about that?
That's the last of the Royals. It's a 313 Poly V8. The Chryslers were a bit dated by 63, but they're still a good car, though. Stylish car. They're very stylish today, but back in 63 they were looking dated. But they've come into their own now, I reckon.
Now, moving towards the end of the lineup here, we have the 59 4-star model. Interesting car.
Yes, a very interesting car. It's actually one of my collection. I bought the car in Gympie. It's a lovely car. The car was actually restored for a fire victim down at Melbourne. And unfortunately, while they were renewing the car or giving it a light refurbishment for him, he passed away. And the widow had the car sold and received the money from the people. And the fellow that bought it off of her actually had to sell it 18 months later, and I was lucky enough to be in the right spot at the right time, and now I own it.
Ken, obviously that car's got a very special story. It must mean a lot to you. All the cars that you have obviously do. What I love about these things is that they do all have their own individual stories, don't they?
Yes, every collector can tell you their stories about their cars and how they got them, and so be it.
The gold 1970 Fairlane behind us, what's the story on that one, Ken?
That's one of the museum's cars. We inherited that from the Ford Discovery Centre. A nice car, a fella owned it, and he travelled around Australia 4 times in that. And it still looks a lovely car. They're a very robust car.
And designed just to get on the freeways and just go.
Yeah. Bill Burke certainly put Ford on wheels when he brought out the ZA Fairlane and followed up with the ZB, ZC and ZD.
Now, the car to our left here, a custom line. Now, I know that this car means a lot to you, Ken.
Yes, it does, actually. I was very lucky to get the car, actually. It was sold new to a doctor in Winchelsea. I believe he had a couple of other cars. When he sold it, a collector up at Ballan got the car, and then he on-sold it to another chap in Drysdale. I happened to be at a garage sale one day and saw it under the cover and said to him, I'd love to have a look at the custom line. He said, oh, well, you can have a look, but he said, you'll never own it because I've got 3 sons and I'll never sell it. Anyhow, 9 months later, he rings me and says, I'm selling the custom line.
Now, stick around because we're going to be having a talk with John on today's show, and we're going to see Ken a little bit later on. Thanks to the fantastic people of Shannons Insurance, Penrite Oil, Hare and Forbes Machinery House, you're watching this week's episode of Classic Restos, the Geelong Auto Museum. Back with more right after this.
Penrite, Australian-made, family-owned and operated. Make premium quality engine and racing oils, warranty-approved coolants, automatic transmission and manual gear oils, a complete range of engine and fuel additives, heavy-duty and industrial products for every application. Visit penriteoil.com for more information. Penrite, Australian-made for Australian conditions since 1926.
I spend a lot of time out here. The RT Charger's the real deal. An E49. Remember A-Charger? I've always got projects on the go, so Shannon's laid-up cover helps protect my restorations. I'm Mopar through and through. It's a passion Shannon's understands. I wouldn't insure my cars and bikes with anyone else.
Shannons, insurance for motoring enthusiasts. Call 13 46 46 for a quote.
If you need a new piece of equipment for your workshop, you need Hare and Forbes Machinery House. Hare and Forbes Machinery House have showrooms around Australia and New Zealand that will have you browsing for hours. See the largest range of industrial and workshop DIY tools. You will be greeted by friendly, helpful staff, and you can buy from anywhere online at machineryhouse.com.au. Hare and Forbes Machinery House. Find your closest store at machineryhouse.com.au. Moving through the Geelong Auto Museum here, we have John. How are you, John?
I'm pretty good, thanks, Fletch.
That's good. You couldn't wait for this, could you?
No, it's been happening for a fair while, but finally got here.
To turn up and be part of Classic Restos here in this amazing place. Now, we've got this row of cars. We've got four down here. We've got a Ford, a Chev, and two Fords. The first one there, what can you tell us about that, John?
Yes, it's a 1926 T model, restored by some of the Ford, or say, apprentices quite a few years ago. And we've had it in the museum for quite a while.
Now, the second car in the row here is the Chevrolet. Now, this belongs to you, John, apparently.
Yes.
Someone told me.
Yes, I've had that for, close to 40 years now.
Wow, so it doesn't look like you're going to get rid of it soon.
Oh, no, I've got to keep that one.
Yeah. So what's it like? How do you feel owning that? What does it mean to you?
It means a lot. As I say, it's one of the first vintage cars I had. Still quite good to drive.
Now, the Ford next to us, the green Ford, the two-door there, almost like the businessman's coupe. What can you tell us about that?
No, that was a donation a few years ago. One owner car, and it says picked up.
It's amazing. Doesn't it make you stop and think, where are these cars found? You know, I mean, they come out of the woodwork when you least expect them. I mean, look at that, a totally original car, like you say, original paint, never been restored. It's just amazing.
Well, that's right. It's had a few modifications, that one, but it's as came out of the shed.
Okay, we've got the Prefect at the end there. What's the story there, John?
Yeah, that's a 48 Prefect. There again, that came down from a family in Sydney. Didn't want to see it wrecked, so we acquired that one.
Every time I think of a Prefect, I think of the kid back in school that had some authority.
Yeah, it's got the same name, hasn't it?
Absolutely. Moving through this amazing place. Now, we've got a poor XY here, a V8 Fairmont that never made the street. It's a cutaway car. Tell us about it, John.
Yes, it's one that Ford's cut away for the Melbourne show back in 1971. And there's not a panel, I don't think they have.
How many miles has it done?
It's got 30 miles up on the speedo now, which has all been stationary. Very interesting vehicle. You can see how everything works.
I tell you what, it's a drafty model. I mean, we look along and, we've got parts that have been dissected here. Now, apparently back in 1971, it was an astronomical amount of money to have this done.
Yes, I don't think they put an actual figure on it, but it'd probably be close to $100,000 to sectionise them.
I mean, to actually dissect and cut away so we can see parts moving, to give us an idea of how much technology goes into a motor car, despite the fact of being 1971. I mean, cars were well on their way in technology by that time, but it's just amazing. We look down front there, we see the wheel. We've got the tyre cut in half, rim cut in half. We've got the an exploded view there of what's happening in behind the dress rim. Parts of the car that normally is taken for granted, even cars of today.
That's right. I don't think you could find a part on that hasn't been cut away.
Absolutely. It's interesting inside too, even where the transmission tunnel is as well, John. Part of the transmission has been cut away. We can see the cog there from the speedo drive where it's meshing as well, and it's spinning, turning around as well. And of course we have our legendary Windsor V8 up front there too, and seeing the valves move and the pistons going up and down. I mean, I can basically stand there for a long time and just stare at that.
No, it's very interesting. You get the school children look at it and they can really see how it all works.
Classic Restos predominantly, specialise in the older type of vehicles, but we've also got a later model Falcon down there with the same type of thing happening, and one next to it as well. John, I want to thank you for your time today, being good enough to come on in for Classic Restos, this quite exclusive episode. Just want to thank you, mate. You do a great job, yourself and the other volunteers here. I think this is amazing what has happened for Geelong to have this auto museum here in such a historic building as well.
It is. It's a very historic building, and I'd like to thank you, Fletch, for coming down and doing a show here.
Good on you, mate. My pleasure, John. Thank you.
Thanks, Fletch.
If you enjoy your classic Americana, along with beautiful countryside, car collections and museums, perhaps you should consider a Fletch tour. Have a look at this. You deserve a Fletch tour. See the amazing Ford, GM and Chrysler Nationals at Carlisle events, along with museums and private collections in beautiful Pennsylvania, USA. Then it's the Motown city of Detroit and its region, taking in more die-hard stuff with incredible history. Rounding off with the Woodward Dream Cruise, the largest moving car cruise in the world.
One of the best things about a Fletch tour is you're really looked after. It's something I've always wanted to do.
Very well organised. The tour company that put it together was great.
Go to classicrestos.com.au and click on the Fletch Tours icon for more information. Hope you're enjoying today's show. Back with more after this.
She could do with a bit extra. You'll need a bit extra doing this or this. They could all do with a bit extra. And you'll definitely need a bit extra here. Our engines need the extra protection you get with Penrite's range of premium oils and lubricants engineered right here for every application under the harsh Australian sun. Penrite, a better class of oil used by a better class of mechanic. And available from over 5,000 outlets across Australia.
We've always had a few cars. They're all special. The T-Bird.
Oh, that's mine.
The Combi for when we want to get away. The XR8.
It's going to be a classic.
They're all insured with Shannons,
We've also got Shannons Home and Contents cover,
which helps protect our automotive collectibles, tools and memorabilia in the home and garage. If you're motoring enthusiasts like us, it's got to be
Shannons.
Shannons, insurance for motoring enthusiasts. Call 13 46 46 for a quote.
If you need a new piece of equipment for your workshop, you need Hare and Forbes Machinery House. From a garage jack through to a lathe, Hare and Forbes has the range. And Hare and Forbes Machinery House are Australian owned, established since 1930. You will be greeted by friendly, helpful staff, and you can buy from anywhere online at machineryhouse.com.au. Hare and Forbes Machinery House. Find your closest store at machineryhouse.com.au. With me now, the guy in charge of marketing is Scott Pigden. How are you, Scott?
Good, thanks, Fletch. How are you?
Good, thank you for having me here.
Oh, thank you for coming down to our little museum we have here.
Yes, it's an all first for Classic Restos, and what a privilege. This is just mind-blowing. When you stand out the front, you see an old building, you walk inside, just blows you away.
Oh, it does, yeah. No, it's been a hard work for the local community for the last 3 years for us to get this up and running, but the community has backed us, and we've got a great team of volunteers, and we're really happy to be able to have this for the Geelong community.
Scott, through your eyes, what does the museum mean for you?
Well, the museum means for me is the history of Geelong. Geelong was the Motown, the Detroit of Australia, we feel. So to have a museum and to keep the car collections together, that and the history of Ford and the manufacturing of Geelong, it was really important. And to keep it in the community hands rather than letting a collection that was hosted in Geelong move out of the town.
Did it take long from the first thoughts and inception of your museum to get it all together?
There was about a 2-year process from when we heard of the previous incarnation of this museum shutting to us opening. It took us about 2 years to get it up and running, working for finding a premises, getting volunteers, getting the community backing, and then getting the car collection together.
Scott, yourself personally, you stand for some great things here in Geelong. The organiser, or you play a big part in the Geelong revival, obviously in the museum as well. Mate, you're a big part of the city yourself, aren't you?
Oh, look, I don't want to big name myself, but I'm getting very involved. I'm trying to bring the younger generation into community life, and the cars, both the revival and the museum are community-based events, and I'm very passionate about my passion of cars, just like yourself, Fletch, and all your viewers. So for me to get involved and help to bring a different feel into it and give back to my community is just fantastic, I think.
Yeah, I mean, classic vehicles. I mean, it's kind of like a mental illness that needs an antidote, and the antidote is just to get in and take as many of these cars in as you can.
Oh, exactly. I'm a fairly bad collector of cars as well. It is definitely an illness, but it's a great illness to have. And look, we make great friends and great camaraderie and events and museums and these sort of places just really help bring us all together and show what we can do for the community.
Now, Scott, there are tens of thousands of people watching this episode now. What is your message to the people in terms of bringing the young kids up through the classic car fraternity to keep the tradition alive, and in terms of visiting museums and places such as this?
Oh, I think it's very important that not only your viewers but the broader community come in and support the classic car movement. Classic car is like artwork. It's moving history, and it's stuff we need to keep. We don't want to lose it, and places like the Geelong Museum of Motoring are a great example for not only us and our collections keeping together, but also the opportunity for other people and collectors to be able to put their vehicles on display for everyone to have a look at, and the history. And the kids love it out here. We've got a lot of interactives. We're not just about the cars. We've got a lot of information about the whole automotive process, from building cars to engines to displays, and how the engineering happens. So it's a great way to keep that history as the engineering is leaving Australia and the manufacturing. We're trying to keep that timepiece that the younger generation can actually see how, if their grandpa and grandfather were involved in the car industry, how they did it, how it was done without computers and how it was done in the old analogue days.
Yeah. Scott, those words with so much meaning, and it's all about preserving a bygone era. Congratulations, mate, again. Hats off to the museum. Hope it all worked well for you.
Thanks very much, Fletch.
This automotive museum here in Geelong is absolutely amazing and gives me an opportunity to catch up with one of my fans. We've got a very special, every car in here is special, believe me. But behind us, we've got a very special Fairlane, 1976 ZG, is that correct?
Anniversary model. They only made 250 of them. Harold Coates in St Arnaud bought this car brand new, and in 2000 he only did 30,000 kilometres in it because he had another car in a ute. He passed away and his wife sat on it for 9 years. In 2006 I had the chance to purchase it, and I've purchased it, and it's now got 38,000 Ks on it. We only use it on long rallies.
I'm almost speechless. Such a beautiful car. This is very special due to its uniqueness, its low mileage, and the amount of people that have owned it. It's in your possession now. It's now in a museum. It doesn't really get much better for it than that, does it?
No, it's got a good history.
But even sitting in it, Ken, it is brand new. It is just like a brand new car.
Yes, it's a very well preserved one because it's had nothing done to it whatsoever. Paint, upholstery, nothing.
Ken, tell me, when you go out for runs in the thing, like, I mean, because of its age and because it hasn't done big mileage, how do you go with like rear main seal, head gaskets, radiator, hoses? How's all that?
Oh, there's been no trouble. We've only replaced the thermostat housing and regular maintenance.
Yeah. There's a lot to be said for the old Cleveland.
That's for sure.
Now, if you want to contact the museum, do a Google, easy to find. What should people be looking for, Ken?
GeelongMuseumofMotoring.com.
Good on you. Well done, mate. Keep up the great work, eh?
Thanks, Fletch. Very nice to have you here.
My pleasure. Thanks, Ken. Well, I hope you've really enjoyed this week's episode of Classic Restos here at the all-new Auto Museum here in Geelong, Victoria. In the meantime, classicrestos.com.au is the website that you need for the DVD boxed sets of the show, Classic Restos merchandise, contact information regarding joining us on a Fletch tour, and of course, the major sponsors that support Classic Restos as well. As I say at the end of every show, no matter where you're watching from, until next week, please ride and drive safe. I'm Fletch, and I thank you very much for watching.
You can like and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/Classic Restos TV and watch catch-up episodes at shannons.com.au. Classic Restos is proudly brought to you by Shannons Insurance, Penrite Oil and Forbes Machinery House.